will join us, but they're going to be a little late. So good afternoon and welcome to the first meeting of the Entertainment and Facilities Committee. I am joined by my colleagues, Councilmember Rue and Mr. O'Farrell, and shortly we'll be joined by the other two members as well. So this is really an opportunity to delve into great issues ranging from filming to entertainment to human trafficking, as well as overseeing the city's real estate and procurement practices. And I hope that the different perspective from my colleagues will add to the discussion on these various issues. So moving forward, I look forward to working with all of you. This is a new committee, so a lot of you have a lot of film and entertainment background, so I hope to delve in with that as well. So, Madam Clerk, we are going to begin our meeting with, if there has been a request to continue item 13, so without objection, that would be the order. And Madam Clerk, unless there's any other objections, I'd like to also note and file items 5 to 12 on consent. And we can begin with item 1, if you can read item 1 into the record.
Actually, I'm sorry, for clarification, items 5 to 12
So let me repeat that again. There has been a request to continue item 13 by the city attorney's office.
Right, I got that.
Okay, and so unless there's an objection, I'd like to note and file items 5 through 12.
Those should be approved.
Okay.
No objection.
Okay, thank you.
Please.
Sure.
Pull number 5. I had a quick question.
You want to, okay, so Mr. Rue would like to hear item 5. And without objection, let's move the rest on consent. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right, so Madam Clerk, can you please read item 1 into the record?
Item 1 is a Municipal Facilities Committee report relative to the execution of a contract with Civic Incorporated. This is for project management oversight of the restacking project at 201 North Figueroa Street.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Melody McCormick with the Department of General Services. So we're here today to ask for the authority to negotiate and execute a sole source contract with CBRE for the 201 Restack project, which is the south tower of the Figueroa Plaza complex. The project for the 201 Restack involves 127,000 square feet. That includes 93,000 square feet that was vacated by the District Attorney's Office this last month, and 34,000 of that for the Development Services Center. As you can tell from the report, the project's broken into phases. At this time, we're asking for authority to basically proceed with phase 1, and that involves 15,000 square feet for the Los Angeles Department of Building and Safety. They have currently been displaced from Fig Plaza due to the fire and are at 2 Cal Plaza. We need to move them back by October 31st along the same schedule as the other departments going into the North Tower. And with this project, we're asking for the authority up to $1.7 million that will help us manage the project management, space planning, the tenant improvements, and then the reoccupation of those displaced employees back in to that facility by October 31st.
I want, for the record, Madam Clerk, can we note that our colleague, Mr. Kokorian, is here?
Okay.
Welcome. I have a couple of questions. Sure. What is the funding source identified for the $1.7 million approved by MFC?
We are working with the CAO's office on the identification of funding sources. They have funds that were set aside for the DA backfill. There's also development services funding available for certain portions of the project, and then there's also some savings and funding that they've set aside from a previous fiscal year.
And when will you be identifying the funding for the remaining phase?
We'll be working with the CAO's office on that over the next month.
Are there any other questions on item 1?
I have a quick one,
Yes.
Madam Chair. Can you just briefly state what the remaining phase will entail?
Absolutely. There is a stack plan that's identified within your report here, and I know we transmitted it in color, but it probably just got copied in black and white. But if you take a look at the phasing that's included in the report, and I believe it's on page, if you go to page, if you go to page 2 of the report, phase 1 includes that critical department, which is, of course, the Department of Building and Safety. Phase 2 is scheduled to be the Development Services Center. Phase 3 would be various build-outs for LAPD. And then, of course, Phase 4, we would continue on with the build-out for the Los Angeles Fire Department. And then the final phase would be relocating the City Attorney Family Violence Unit off of a lease that we're currently paying for and into Figueroa Plaza.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I have no cards on this item, Madam Clerk, so I'd like to move this item for approval. Seeing no objections, this item moves. Can we move on to items 2 through 4? Can we take those together?
Okay.
Are you going to
Okay, on item 2, you have Municipal Facilities Committee report. This has to do with the lease with 110 Sunshine Smoothies. This will be for the sale of coffee, fast food, and juice bar at 201 North Los Angeles Street, spaces 23A and 10D. For item 3, it's a report again from Municipal Facilities Committee, and this has to do with a lease with Pili Manila Grill. This will be to operate a Filipino-style fast dining restaurant at 201 North Los Angeles Street, space 7. And for item 4, you also have a Municipal Facilities Committee report, and it has to do with the lease agreement with Janine Kim to operate a beauty salon in space 15 at 201 North Los Angeles Street.
Okay, so the Department of General Services issued an RFP back in February of 2015. We got various responses to our request for proposals. An evaluation committee took a look at all of those, and these are 3 of the vendors that have been selected to occupy what are now vacant spaces in the Los Angeles Mall. All of these spaces will be generating revenue back to the city in the form of base rent, and then there's also a percentage rent included in that. The Pili Manila Grill will be taking over the Cafe San Michelle space. The Sunshine Smoothie, which currently has a business in the mall, they're going to be expanding, and they're also going to be taking over the kiosk that you see on Los Angeles Street. And then, of course, the beauty salon will be going back into a space that was currently occupied with a beauty salon. So all tenants included here will be covering the cost of their own tenant improvements. And so we hope to begin livening up those spaces fairly soon.
I have a couple of questions. How many businesses in the mall are on a month-to-month basis?
The majority of the businesses in the mall are on a month-to-month basis. They were offered the opportunity through this RFP to secure an additional 2.5-year term, and it was up to them to decide whether or not they are
And
going to do that.
how many of them did?
There's only one at this point that's wanting to take an opportunity to do that, to lock in another 2.5 years.
What's the vacancy rate there?
So the vacancy rate, I believe it's probably close to 30%.
So what's the long-term plan for the mall? What are you planning to do there with all the real estate development in the area? This place is dead,
Right.
as far as I'm concerned. How do we attract, a high-quality tenant or just attract a tenants, period,
Right.
to try to make this more of a destination place for folks?
So the city administrative office has their strategic planning team, their asset management team is working on a development scheme for the Los Angeles Mall, and I believe Raul is here to discuss that role in the project.
And who are you with, sir?
Raul Mendoza. I'm with the Office of the CAO, with our Asset Management Strategic Planning Unit. And so last year we had an asset management study done, and part of that, PA Consulting and Cushman & Wakefield evaluated the highest and best use of the LA Mall. And part of that, part of their findings was that redevelopment of the mall would be the best solution rather than revitalization. And so with that, they presented various redevelopment options, but as part of that, there was some due diligence that needs to be done, such as evaluating the parking structure and what weight that structure can support, because it's right underneath. But all in all, this kind of ties in with what's going on with Parker Center, and there's a pending motion, I believe, that's been referred to this committee for a Civic Center land use plan. And so all that will kind of tie into what happens with the mall. But I think overall, the finding from Cushman was a redevelopment plan. And so just kind of evaluating the Civic Center land use plan and the potential of doing that and tying that in with what happens with the mall.
So when do we anticipate that to be completed?
The actual redevelopment.
No, the actual plan. So the assessment management plan has been completed, and they came back with,
Yeah, so the
option of
evaluation of the LA
redevelopment.
Mall as a standalone entity has been completed. I think what's kind of pending now is the motion with regards to the Civic Center land use plan. So,
how often do you release RFPs for leasing space at the mall?
We could release them as often as possible. The last effort that we took to the Municipal Facilities Committee, we were discussing what the timing would be in terms of the development of the mall, and so we got authority to go forward and issue an RFP, but for 2.5 years only, because at that point we believe there may be some more solid plans in place. You know, in the meantime, we believe that until the development community is engaged, it's in the best interest of the city to have it occupied, to not let those spaces go dark, because, you know, you generate foot traffic as much as possible. It demonstrates market potential. So anyone taking a look at the mall can definitely see it does generate foot traffic. And the more businesses down there, the more market potential it has.
Are there any other questions?
I have a quick
Sure,
one.
Mr. O'Farrell.
So I am a customer of Quench Juice, and they're co-located with the coffee place already. Are they both moving to a different?
No, they're
outlet?
expanding their space
Where they
next
are-
door. They'd like to provide some more indoor seating. It's been a very, very successful business. And so in addition to that, they want to have the grab-and-go stand up on Los Angeles Street, which we all believe is going to be very successful.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, I think we have a real opportunity to try to do something with this
Absolutely.
city asset. So I look forward to bringing this item back to committee and doing something different and more attractive, and give us a lot more options for not only our city family, but for people who frequent the mall and be competitive with everything else that's being redeveloped in downtown. So thank you very much. I have no cards on any of these items, Madam Clerk. So if there are no objections, I'd like to move approval for items 2 through 4. And is that okay?
Yes.
2 through 4, and then we have item 5. Can you read that into the record? Mr. Rue had a question.
For item 5, the city attorney has submitted a report and an ordinance. This has to do with an amendment of the Los Angeles Administrative Code. This will be to reduce the minimum retention period for all digital imagery captured by the Los Angeles Police Department from 5 to 2 years.
I had a quick question. It's for all video, or is it just in-car? Or
It covers all video imagery. Good afternoon. I'm Deputy City Attorney Julie Raffish. Just by way of background and to clarify, it appears that this matter received a second council file number. So all of the previous reports and substantive background and explanation was attached to the first council file number and not attached to the last one. It does cover all imagery captured by the Los Angeles Police Department.
so what's the, I mean, I don't know, because, yeah, it was pretty light, no wonder.
It was,
Yeah.
and that's why I apologize. It appears to have a new number. The old CF number was 12-0757, and sometime this year it received the number 15-0029.
So, yeah, I mean, just reading the submission line, I don't know, I mean, I'd rather have you guys keep it for 5 years, but if you could give a little quick justification why you want to go from 5 to 2?
Well, it's not a request of the city attorney's office to move from 5 to 2. It was a request by the Los Angeles Police Department to reduce the retention of imagery from 5 to 2 years. And perhaps Ms. Goodrich can explain that.
I can speak to that. Hi, I'm Maggie Goodrich. I'm the CIO for the LAPD. So we originally asked the city attorney if they would take a look at the relevant statutes, et cetera, and weigh in with an opinion on whether or not the 5-year term could be reduced by some period, and specifically because of the cost of storage for a lot of this video. We're not just talking about in-car video, which it provide, we collect, I want to say 740 videos a day just in South Bureau right now for in-car video. So you talk about that across the city. Also, we have body-worn video coming up we have license plate recognition images, we have CCTV. So all of those images together, the storage costs, as you can imagine, grow exponentially over time. And so we had asked the city attorney if they would take a look at relevant statutes of limitations, et cetera, the laws, the state law on retention, and come back with an opinion on what would be an appropriate retention period. And so under the old council file number that Ms. Rafish just mentioned, the city attorney came back with an opinion that indicated that 2 years would be sufficient given those considerations.
Is there some sort, I'm not a lawyer, is there some sort of statute on when someone can file a claim?
There is. In California, there's the California Tort Claims Act. So if you're going to be trying to sue the municipality, a municipality in California, you need to file a tort claims within 6 months of the date you were injured. So there's that period of time. There is also a statute of limitations for filing a personal injury claim, which constitutional allegations against law enforcement would fall within that, and that's a 2-year statute of limitations, okay, which needs to be preceded by filing a tort claim with the city as well. Most criminal prosecutions arise from violations of laws that have a 1-year statute of limitation. And the California Government Code sets forth some pretty generic record retention schedules. And for this type of imagery, they have a 1-year minimum. Now, that was before the legislature amended the statute of limitations for bringing personal injury actions to 2 years. It used to be 1 year, now it's 2 years. But the California Government Code has not been amended, so even state law requires only a minimum of 1 year. And under the Peace Officers Procedural Bill of Rights, personnel complaints against peace officers need to be adjudicated within a year of the time that the incident is brought to the attention of the department.
And when can it be, what's the time frame for being brought to the department?
Well, there isn't a fixed time period, but the vast majority occur within a year. And so what we're talking about, the reduction in retention would apply to imagery that has not already been bookmarked, identified, extracted, retained as part of a personnel investigation, as part of a criminal prosecution or investigation, as part of a piece of civil litigation. We're talking about sort of everything else that remains. Mm-hmm. And it is a minimum. It's still a minimum. So if there was some identifiable need to retain that type of imagery beyond 2 years, then it would be retained. This is a floor.
So any kind of case or whatnot is claimed, then in the 2 years you would pull that video.
Correct. The police department or the city would identify whether any imagery existed for that and pull it and save it. And then it would be part of that package, and it would stay with that package almost indefinitely.
I can speak to our business process there. So the 2 years is a minimum if nothing else has occurred. So if there is a criminal prosecution, a case filing with the city attorney or DA, a complaint made against an officer, or even other administrative investigations like a use of force investigation, a complaint investigation, pursuit review, all of that video gets flagged for retention indefinitely. So it's really only the video where there's basically been no further follow-up, no further investigation, where it would be it's essentially on the table for potential deletion at the 2-year mark. At that point, there is no automated deletion or anything like that in the system. At that point, basically what we'd be able to do is run a report that shows the videos that are essentially eligible for the 2-year mark. We would then go through the destruction of records process. We would go through police commission to identify those videos, to seek permission to destroy those obsolete records, and then also come through council as we would with any other records.
So it would be the city attorney or the opposing attorney that would have to try to discover if there's a video, right? Because it's not like there's no automatic system, right?
Well, the police department also identifies videos all the time.
Yeah, for any of our administrative investigations or criminal investigations, as part of that process, we also go through the process of identifying the video for each incident.
You know, does my colleague our attorney on staff have questions? Because I think you'll probably ask more intelligent questions. So
I don't act as an attorney when I'm here, just for the record. But I actually had all the same questions, and you responded, I think, well with regard to the statute of limitations. It seems like almost everything would be encompassed within this. In order for there to be any action initiated against the city, there has to have been a claim. So we would have a record of the claims. You'd be able to run that database against your destruction record, so you would know. Even if it weren't already flagged, you would know that, right? I just want to make sure there's a system in place that happens automatically without human intervention. Okay, so that's number one. The only other potential issue I could see here would be in a situation of, let's say, officer misconduct, officer discipline, when you want to go back and look at the officer's record. Has there been a history of misuse of force? Has there been a history of whatever? And I don't know if you even, under the Police Officers' Bill of Rights and so on, if you even have the ability to do that. But there might be times where there isn't a claim. But because of something that happens today, you might want to look back and see, well, what happened when that officer was dealing with, citizens 4 years ago. I don't know if that's even feasible to do in light of the Police Officers' Bill of Rights.
We're actually in discussions on that very topic with the PPL at this moment, but historically, we have not gone back into video to do that type of research. If you are looking at historical officer conduct, typically looking at what's referred to as their teams report, which is sort of a record of their personnel history. In there, it would indicate previous complaints, uses of force, et cetera, and the findings, and you would have the basically the administrative reports that go with that.
Yeah.
Typically, it's not done by a review of video.
That makes sense. So if there had been any prior misconduct, it would still be retained in the personnel file. It would be in all the records. You just wouldn't be able to go back and actually see the video of it.
Correct.
And even with all that, you still have to go through the process that we have on our agenda today for destruction of physical documents. You would go through the same process, be publicly noticed, in front of the police commission, in front of the public safety committee, presumably, or this committee, and then to full council, full light of day before you do anything.
Yes.
Okay. So with that, it makes sense to me.
One last question. I'm so sorry, Madam Chair. Memory is so cheap these days. So what's the actual cost savings? Go from 5 to 2 years.
I couldn't give you a number off the top of my head for all of the items that we're talking about. I know at the time in the old council file we did an analysis, but I'd hate to give you a number off the top of my head. I'm sorry. It is significant, though. I mean, we're talking about terabytes and eventually petabytes of data, right, that we're storing, video and data together. And we're talking about vehicles across the city, almost 2,000 of them capturing video every day. Like I said, in South Bureau, I mean, the numbers are staggering so far. 740 a day just in one of the 4 bureaus.
Okay. So you don't know the cost.
So perhaps you can get that to him.
I can provide that to your office. Happy to.
Yes,
Yeah.
Mr. O'Farrell?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Is there an industry standard for the retention of digital imagery amongst police forces in the state or nationwide?
It varies by agency and by state, depending on state law. We've seen a number that are actually much shorter than this. I mean, some are deleting video after 90 days. Some are a year.
Even though the government code says a year.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I'm not speaking necessarily to California.
Well, I'm
But
glad that
yeah.
you took all of that into consideration in the selection of the 2-year window. So I was just curious. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? If there are no objections, I'd like to move for approval of item 5. So moved. Madam Clerk, I have no cards for this item, but we do have several cards for public comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ladies, thank you. David Lopez? This is public comment.
Can I come up to the back?
You have 1 minute during public comment.
Okay. Buenas tardes. Mi nombre es David López. Yo soy un trabajador. Fui abusado en mi salario. Estoy aquí porque estamos tratando de apoyar para que la ley se enforce más y tengamos un mejor trato y seamos valorados más en nuestro empleo.
Hello, my name is David Lopez, and I am a worker. I have been a victim of wage violations.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Can we stop the clock during translation, please?
Thank you. My name is David Lopez, and I am a worker. I was a victim of wage theft or wage violation, and I am here today to support and continue to work on the law that will enforce labor law to ensure that workers such as myself are no longer victims of wage violations or wage theft.
Porque ahora, si ahora no se está pagando los $9, imagínense cuando sean $15, no van a aceptar pagar ese salario.
If today we're not getting $9 an hour, which is the minimum wage, what makes us think that we will get 15 when it gets there?
Es todo. Muchas gracias por su tiempo.
That would be all.
Gracias.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker is Kushan Dasgupta. Hope I pronounced your last name correctly. Good.
Hi, good afternoon, council members. My name is Kushan Dasgupta. I'm with the Restaurant Opportunity Center. We applaud the council's leadership to raise and enforce $15. We just want to make sure that the policy now has the intended impact of improving employer retention and adding $414 million to the local economy. The NPR, the LA Times, and the New York Times all have produced reporting that kind of questions the efficacy of funding enforcement at $500,000. The UC Berkeley study has estimated that at least $4 million is needed. We know what's happening right now is a first step. We just want to make sure that going forward there is adequate funding, including contracts with community-based organizations for outreach and education. Additionally, with 90% of LA's restaurant workers lacking basic benefits, like, for instance, paid sick days, we also urge the City Council to pass a strong paid sick days policy so that cooks and servers are not put into a position in which they have to work while they're sick. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jenya Cassidy. Is that correct?
Yes. Hello. My name is Jenya Cassidy, and I'm with the California Work and Family Coalition. We're a statewide coalition focused on workers' rights at work around paid sick days, paid family leave, anything that helps workers keep their job and care for their family. And we're here in strong support of the paid sick days law for Los Angeles along the lines of the San Francisco law that is a very strong law and has strong enforcement. We think that's really important that LA has a really strong paid sick days law for the workers here and also as a way to lead the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Helen Hernandez. Helen?
Hi, my name is Helen Hernandez, and I'm part of ACE. The issue that I want to talk about is the paid sick leave. As of now, we have 3 days paid sick leave, and I would like for it to go up. For an example, my sister, she's a mother of 2, and she has asthma as well as her children. But her youngest son has chronic asthma, and she has to take days off of work to take care of him. But since she takes too many days off, when she has to go back to work, she doesn't have any days for herself. So she gets sick, and then she works with children, so it's hard for her. And then she has to take like medications off the counter, which some medicine she's allergic to. So she's risking the lives of the children she works with. And since she took too many days off, she was replaced by another woman. And I would like for them to go up because she's a victim of not having too many days off, and there's other people just like her. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Marlene Martinez. Are you Marlene?
Okay.
You can start.
Okay. Hi, my name's Marlene. I'm part of the community group ACE, and I'm speaking on behalf of paid sick leave. So I currently have an aunt living in downtown Los Angeles. She's a single mother, and I have a cousin, which is her son, who has asthma also, and she frequently has to take days off of work, and oftentimes she has to choose between, paying rent or staying home and taking care of her son and taking him to doctor's appointments. And well, she has to choose work because she has rent to pay, all the utility bills, and it's very difficult for her because she has to go to work sick, or she has to leave her son homesick and not being able to get medical attention. And so currently the state has 3 days for workers, but what we want is 9 days for workers, because if you have a family, 3 days is just not enough. And also and enforcing these paid sick days so these workers won't have to fight against retaliation, so they won't be afraid of taking those days off when they need to. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sharif Sell. Sure. Did I pronounce that? I didn't pronounce that right. Well, I'm glad you said so and I didn't. But okay, sure. But is it Sherry? Sherry. Okay, I'm sorry. Bell. I see the B. Okay. Sorry about that.
No problem.
I have a weird name, so I'm always very sensitive about how I pronounce everyone else's name. So go ahead. Welcome.
Yes, good afternoon, council members. I just want to say thank you for taking a courageous step.
I'm sorry for just a second. Can we just minimize the disruption in the back of the room, please? We have public comment. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. In raising a wage and inspiring a nation. I'm here in support of comprehensive wage enforcement that includes provisions that will investigate, monitor discriminatory hiring practices. The black jobs crisis is devastating many communities, with close to 20% unemployment in LA County. Discriminatory hiring practices against black workers are a serious problem, especially in the city of LA. Discriminatory employment practices are a violation of civil rights. Black workers experience wage theft at twice the rate of white workers, and of those, some of those folks don't even make it to the job because employers don't want to pay fair wages and also don't want to give the workers a chance to be hired. It's a matter of urgency that the city of LA addresses this issue and has a policy that will monitor and investigate and collect fines.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Francisco Zuniga. Francisco Zuniga, are you here? Yeah. They're translating?
Buenas tardes a todos.
Buenas tardes.
Mi nombre es Francisco Zúñiga. Yo trabajo para Fast Food Worker. Tengo 2 hijos.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Francisco Zuniga, and I'm with the 5 for 15 campaign, and I am a father of 2.
Yo estoy acá para que el cónsul me ayude a que estas compañías paren de robar a todos los empleados.
And I'm here to ask the council for support in ending wage theft by these companies.
No me dan mis breaks. Incluso, I know I don't have enough time. It's okay. But unos clientes me dan tips en las tarjetas de crédito y el manager no me los pone. Cuando yo le pregunto, ¿qué pasó con los tips? Él dice, se me olvidó. Y lo están haciendo desde hace mucho tiempo.
Un momentito.
One of the things I'd like to talk about, the issues that I faced at work is tips. Some customers leave tips on the credit card receipt, and I see the tips. And when I approach my manager about my tips, he gives me excuses such as, I forgot. And this has been going on for quite a bit.
Consul, please, ayúdeme a que esto pare. Tengo mis hijos y quiero que mis hijos vayan a un colegio, a una universidad. Podrían ser el próximo cónsul de Los Ángeles.
And with that said, I ask for your all support in order for me to be able to send my kids to college. And hopefully in the future, they'll be sitting in those same council seats that you're all sitting in.
And, pienso que si Los Ángeles pone esas reglas, va a ser un gran ejemplo para todas las grandes ciudades que rodean a Los Ángeles.
Gracias.
If LA takes the leadership in enforcing such laws, we will be the example for the rest of the country.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Gracias a usted. Next speaker, Rosemary Molina. Rosemary Molina left. Last card is Antonia Ramirez. Are you here? This is public comment, ma'am. This is what you filled out, a public comment card? No, we're done with the agenda.
You see I'm out there with a shopping cart? I stood on principle. So whenever anybody stands on principle fighting for military or fighting for dignity and humanity of American citizens, you will end up carrying a shopping cart like I have. And they pop a wheel every time I come to city council. That's like shopping carts every week. How many of you can stand up against these wetbacks and gangbangers? No, we're too busy pandering to these illegals. How many of you can stand up to these illegals and wetbacks? Stand up for what is right. Not any of you. You're not going to jeopardize your family, your income, or anything. I've jeopardized everything. And for me, this is a matter of principle. That's the way I am. The rule of law. I believe in the rule of law, which the LAPD has failed to implement. And so therefore, we are too busy supporting these gangbangers and wetbacks. We got military on the streets, and we got baby boomers and senior citizens on the streets. And I'm out there lugging these shopping carts when bus drivers won't even let me on the bus, or taxi drivers, which I'm willing to pay, will not let me on. Deport these illegal wetbacks and gangbangers.
That concludes public comment. Madam Clerk, I have no more cards.
No more cards.
There are no more cards for public comment. Thank you. I just want to make sure the public understands wage theft implementation is being heard in this committee, and paid sick leave is being heard in economic development. I just want to make sure everybody understands. I know it's a little confusing, so this is our first meeting, but nevertheless, thank you all for being here, and this concludes our meeting. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.